What was the secret way medieval rulers held onto power? You think it was all about giant armies and towering castles, right? Wrong. Well, partly wrong. The most powerful kings and queens, the ones who ruled for decades and built dynasties, had a secret weapon. Something far more subtle and, honestly, way more effective than a sword. It was something they controlled completely, something that could build an empire or shatter it overnight. And in this video, we're going to uncover exactly what that was and how they used it to dominate their world. Sure, you needed an army. You absolutely needed knights in shining armor and imposing stone fortresses. These were the symbols of power, the brute force. If someone challenged you, you could, in theory, crush them. Simple. But what happens when you can't be everywhere at once? A kingdom is a big place. What stops your own powerful lords, your own dukes and barons, hundreds of miles away, from deciding they should be in charge? You can't just fight everyone all the time. You'd run out of money, men, and eventually, all your support. The medieval world was a tinderbox, and a single spark of rebellion could burn your entire kingdom to the ground. So how did the smart rulers stop the fire before it even started? They did it by controlling the narrative. They mastered the art of public relations, medieval style. Their secret weapon wasn't steel. It was reputation and the careful, deliberate control of information. Think about it. In a deeply religious age, who was more powerful than God? No one. So smart rulers made sure everyone knew they were God's chosen representative on earth. This wasn't just a title. It was a shield. They didn't just attend church. They founded monasteries. They didn't just pray. They went on hugely expensive and dangerous crusades, not just for faith, but for the incredible PR. King Louis IX of France was so successful at this, he was literally declared a saint by the church after his death. Now, put yourself in the shoes of a rebellious baron. How do you convince people to rise up and fight against a living saint? It was political genius. Power was also a performance. A king had to look like a king. This meant extravagant feasts, lavish gifts to loyal followers, and building magnificent cathedrals that soared to the heavens. This wasn't just wasteful spending. It was a message, a very loud message. It said, I am rich, I am powerful, and I reward loyalty. But there was a dark side to this performance. A ruler also had to be feared. The public, often brutal, executions for traitors weren't just about punishment. They were a press release, sent to every corner of the kingdom. It was a terrifying, unforgettable warning of the price of disloyalty. And then there was the marriage market. Forget romance. Royal marriages were the ultimate political contracts of the Middle Ages. You didn't marry for love. You married for an alliance, for a claim to a throne, or to neutralize a powerful enemy. When William the Conqueror married Matilda of Flanders, he wasn't just getting a wife, he was securing his entire northern border from attack. Every royal child was a strategic asset from the moment they were born, a chess piece to be played in the great, sprawling game of European power. But here's the twist. This weapon, this total reliance on reputation, was also their greatest weakness. It was like building your castle on a foundation of whispers and rumors. Because what happens when you can't control the story anymore? What happens when your enemies start telling a better one? Just look at King John of England. We all know him as the sniveling, greedy villain from the Robin Hood stories. But why? Was he really that much more cruel than his father, Henry II, or his famously heroic brother, Richard the Lionheart? Probably not. But he was terrible at public relations. He lost crucial wars in France, he picked a fight with the Pope, who then excommunicated him and basically turned all of Christendom against him, and he alienated his most powerful barons with heavy taxes. So what did they do? They didn't just rebel with swords. They launched a smear campaign. They branded him as greedy, weak, and impious. They created a narrative of a tyrannical king, a story so powerful that it forced him to the negotiating table at Runnymede. A story that made him sign the Magna Carta, a document that limited his power forever. His reputation was shattered. and his power crumbled right along with it. Now let's jump forward a few centuries to an absolute master of this game, Queen Elizabeth I. She inherited a kingdom that was religiously divided, broke, and seen as weak by the superpowers of Europe. She was a woman in a man's world, and her very legitimacy to rule was constantly being questioned. So what did she do? She created a cult of personality. She became the Virgin Queen, married only to her kingdom. This wasn't just a personal choice, it was a political masterstroke. It meant she never had to share power with a husband, and she could play foreign princes against each other for decades, dangling the possibility of marriage. She controlled her image with an iron fist. Official portraits were carefully designed to project power, wisdom, and even agelessness as she grew older. And she went on progresses, which were these massive, expensive tours of the country, so her people could see her in person. She would dazzle them with her charisma and wealth, creating a personal bond with her subjects. She took her perceived weakness, being an unmarried woman, and turned it into her greatest strength. She wasn't just a monarch, she was an icon. But for every Elizabeth, there's a cautionary tale. Contrast her with Richard II. Richard came to the throne as a boy and grew up with a massive ego. He truly believed in the divine right of kings, that his right to rule came directly from God, and that no mortal man could question it. He spent lavishly on his court and his personal favorites, but he ignored the concerns of his powerful nobles, treating them with contempt. He didn't manage his image, he just assumed his birthright was enough. This arrogance created a power vacuum. His own cousin, Henry Bolingbroke, exploited it perfectly. While Richard was away on a campaign in Ireland, Henry returned from exile and didn't just use force, he used propaganda. He traveled the country claiming he was only there to reclaim his rightful lands, which Richard had stolen. He carefully painted Richard as a tyrant who was mismanaging the kingdom and listening to evil counselors. The narrative took hold. Support for Richard collapsed without a single major battle. By the time Richard returned to England, the story had already been written, and he was the villain. He was forced to abdicate, and Henry became king. Richard II learned the hard way that divine right means absolutely nothing if the powerful people in your kingdom no longer believe in your story. So while armies and castles were essential, the real secret to holding on to power in the medieval world was a constant, ruthless, and brilliant game of perception management. It was about making sure your story was the only one that mattered. The kings and queens who understood this, like Elizabeth I, built lasting legacies. Those who failed, like King John and Richard II, became footnotes, or worse, cautionary tales for all the rulers who came after. What do you think was the most clever tactic these rulers used? Let me know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed uncovering the real secrets of the past, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more videos that look beyond the history books. Thanks for watching.